Hi folks, it's Evo here from Thundermist Lure Company, and welcome to today's very special edition of Thundermist Fishing Tips. I'm out here with the boatless angler himself. I've got Antonio with us today, and special because we're going to run a three-part series focusing on channel catfish. And this special catfish series, we're going to cover all the different areas and aspects of getting you on to more fish. And on today's episode 1, part 1 of 3, we're going to key in on locations, strategies, and best times to catch catfish. So stay tuned folks, we're boatless and we're gonna have a great day. Oh, there we go, Antonio.
That was great.
I leaned into that one, folks.
I'd say.
Did you see that hook set, Antonio?
I did.
Oh, it doesn't feel too big, but it feels like a decent fish.
Wow, you cast it way out there.
I cast it way out there. All I did, folks, I was just sitting there minding my own business. I put my rod down, got myself a little wooden rod holder there, natural one, and he gave me my first bite. And what I did was I picked up my rod because I wanted to feel the bite, and I let them take it a bit. And sometimes what happens, you'll feel them pulling and pulling, and one of the best bites to pull on is when they're just pulling and tugging and pulling away from you. And I didn't pull on the first bite. You notice there, I let them take it a bit, and sometimes what happens, they actually pull your line away from you, but sometimes they actually swim towards you and your line gets loose, and that's a good time to take up the slack and to always have a handle on what's going on out there. This feels like a decent fish.
It looks nice. A little sluggish.
Sluggish.
Early in the year.
Speaking of early in the year, best times to go. Time of year.
Best times to go?
The time of year. The spring is probably one of the better times.
You get quantity in the spring.
You do. And oh, it's a nice fish.
That is really nice.
There he is there.
Let's see if I can land him for you.
There he is there. He's coming up the shore here, Antonio. No landing net today, folks. Nice, thank you. Nice fish. Hey, that's a
really
great
nice
one. Look at the color on him. Wow, beautiful fish. Let me put my rod down here.
It's grunting.
He's grunting. Oh, look at, oh boy, he just inhaled that bait. You're gonna have to get a needle nose. Let me get a pliers to get that out.
Okay.
Look at the mouth. Put my whole hand in the mouth. Oh, that's a nice sized channel cat. Let's take a look at them.
It's really cold.
They're cold out of this cold water, and we talked about springtime. That's a nice fish. Female, Antonio?
I think so, yeah.
Female with eggs. I'm gonna say it's about 6-7 pounds anyway. That's maybe 8.
Yeah, it's a nice fish.
Big belly on him, big head, nice color. Okay, let's get this going back in. It's a great start to our day right there. And away he goes, no worse for wear.
How's that water?
That water's cold. Now we talked about time of year. A lot of people write in. Springtime is a great time. 2 weeks after ice out.
We're catching fish.
2 weeks after ice out. When the water temp gets up to about 50 degrees, close to 50, those catfish will turn on. And the bite will start. And in fact, it starts as early as 50, and then at about 65 degrees, they go in the spawning mode from 65 to 80 in that range there.
Yeah, and I've even caught them though, like even when there's still some ice on the lake or on a bay.
Really?
But the bite is a lot slower. But you saw that fish; he was really sluggish. So they're biting, but they're still somewhat dormant in the sense they're not active.
They're not as active as they would be in the summer.
Right.
Not as active as they would be. But springtime, you can catch bigger fish, and you can catch quantity of fish.
Yeah.
And the bite is good. It's good. So you don't have to wait that long. As soon as that water warms up a bit. And speaking of warming up a bit, in the springtime, we're fishing a bay here. And the water will warm up in those shallower bays, And in the springtime, that's what you want to look for, is that warmer water. Those catfish are going to be coming in out of their winter holes, looking for that warmer water, and they're starting to feed. It's been a long winter, and they're hungry.
Yeah. So you can even get them as shallow as 1 foot.
Exactly.
1 to 3 feet is really prime depth, really.
Absolutely, because that 1 to 3 foot water zone is going to warm up quicker than that 10, 12, 20 foot depth.
And not only that, a lot of times in the springtime it floods, so you got areas that are normally not have water in them, so they come in those flats and they'll feed on, worms and all that. That flooding really brings them in too.
That's very true. Now we're using cut bait today. I'm going to rebait up. We're going to get right back out there again, see if we can get into some more fish.
It was a little different.
Different bite?
Yeah. I think he might have it.
You think he's on?
Yeah, it's. I don't want to sit the hook go. Kind of embarrassing on camera.
Go for it, Antonio. Live on the edge.
I got him.
Yeah, you living on the edge. Like that. He must have just picked it up and just been mouthing it, because this water is still cold and they're not that aggressive. How do you like that?
He was not moving.
He just picked it up. Oh, he just
Jumped.
He just jumped. Oh, that was pretty good.
I can't believe that. He didn't move at all.
Well, it's this early spring bite. Now, in the summer, talk about the summer bite. The summer bite is a much more aggressive bite. The catfish are a lot more active, and their bites are more aggressive, and they fight harder. But in the summer, it's a little different. Summer,
Yeah.
you got to fish a little different. You got to fish deeper water. Right now, we're fishing the shallow flat because it's a little warmer, a little bit of a warmer water. But in the summer, it's the reverse trend. We want to fish a little bit deeper in the summer. Ooh, that looks like a nice fish.
Also in the summer, when there's structure, like they like to sleep in areas of sticks and thick weeds, and fishing close to that really helps too, because they come out of there and find food. So
You know what?
they're good spots.
That's exactly right. They're no different than a bass. The catfish like cover, and they'll bury themselves in sticks and timber and up against rocks.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, Antonio. So if you find those areas, deeper water with some structure down there, those fish will hold in there, and you can work those areas in the summer and get into some real nice catfish. This one looks like a decent fish. If you bring them,
Try to bring him on this side.
that's a nice catfish. Nice fish. Now you can see Antonio and I. Oh, he's going to cross my line now. We are, if you notice, we're fishing together. My line is right there, Antonio's is right here. And you want to keep your bait in close proximity to each other. If we were fishing for bass or pike, we'd be spread out and work in the area. But in this case, we're staying together. We're keeping our baits in the same spot. And what it's doing is it's scenting up that area. And we keep casting to the same spot. And we keep that area nice and scented, which will attract more fish.
He's going under your line.
I still have my line in the water there. Well, hopefully it won't get tangled up.
Not much of a bite, but he's waking up now.
He's waking up. He's waking up. Yeah, for a cold water fight, not too bad.
Not bad.
And speaking of water, this water clarity, it's not too clear. It's brownish. Here he comes here. It's another yellow catfish. Oh, it's a little bit bigger than the one I caught, Antonio.
It's good.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah. That's a nice fish. Oh, there you go. There you go. That's a beauty.
That's a nice fish.
That's another nice channel catfish right there, folks. Yeah, I was just saying the water clarity is a little bit dirty, and you know, catfish feed by sight, but mainly by scent. But they do feed by sight as well. And if the water was cleaner, you get a bite quicker, because not only can they smell it, but they can see it. But right now they're mainly feeding on scent because this water is really not that clear.
Nice fish.
Very nice fish. Look, he's got a bit of a broken fin here. Must have had a rough winter. Beautiful fish. And there he goes. Okay, so we know we've talked a little bit about the spring and the summer. How about the fall?
Fall is one of my favorite times to fish because the fish are fattening up. They're on the bite.
True.
And it's still warm.
That's true, and they do fatten up. And early fall is better than late fall because late fall they've already migrated out. They're heading for deeper water into their winter holes. But in early fall, what I found, especially if you can find an area where it goes from shallow and drops to deep, and if you fish that break right along that break line, what happens is those catfish are following those break lines, working their way out to their winter holes, and you could get into some great days of fishing.
Yep. And I find that if you fish in the evenings or throughout the night, your luck is a little bit better. Crack of dawn is good too. But throughout the day, especially if it's sunny, you don't get too many bites. It's more of an evening into the nighttime kind of thing.
That's true. The darker days are definitely better in the summer and the fall. I think in the summer and the fall, the dark days make a difference.
Yeah.
In the spring, like today, it doesn't really matter if you're fishing early morning, late in the day, sunny, cloudy, doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
But in the summer and the fall, dark days, cloudy conditions, or as you said, in the evening. And what I found on the night bite is when it just gets dark, let's say if it got dark at 9 o'clock, the bite is great for the first 2 to 3 hours, between 9 p.m. and say midnight. You got a great bite at that point in time, a very aggressive bite. And I think that's because those fish have been sitting all day long, and now they're getting active and aggressive, and they're on the move and they're on the bite. It's a great time to catch catfish. And as far as where they can be found, I mean, you're looking at mainly lakes and rivers. They're predominantly found throughout North America, but you can get them in lakes and rivers. And if you're fishing rivers, best to find a river edge or a break in the current, eh?
Yeah, or a back eddy, something where it's a little calmer, where drifting food will settle, and those are areas that they'll feed in. So those are really good spots.
That's very true. So especially if you've got a river that is coming along and then it makes a bend and it goes back around, well, in that bend will be a slacker current, and there'll be food that gets caught up in those bends, and those catfish. That's a natural place to look for catfish on a river system. Anyhow, anything that breaks that current. If you've got an edge or some structure that they could hide behind, anything of that nature.
Yep.
And always when you're fishing the current, you got to keep in mind, if you're fishing here and the current's going that way, you're targeting catfish from that area. They're going to come up towards your scent. You know what? We have so much more to talk about, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this first episode of this special 3-part series, but we need to get into gear, rods, reels, line, hooks, terminal tackle, bait. So much more to talk about. That's coming up in episode 2 and 3 on this special 3-part series. So thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, folks, good luck and good fishing. We need to get into gear, rods, reels, line, hooks, terminal tackle, bait. So much more to talk about. That's coming up in episode 2 and 3 on this special